Now, there's a bit of a story, isn't there, while we're talking about Harvard? There's a bit of a story about Harvard because one of the chief astronomers at Harvard for many years was a guy called Donald Menzel. What can you tell me about what you've discovered happened at Harvard?
There's a little bit there are some details that really make me wonder. To start with, about Donald Menzel, he was very famous as a UFO debunker, maybe the most famous UFO debunker of his
He was a
times.
scathing, let's be cruel about it. He was a scathing debunker, a person who really put the boot into anybody who suggested that there was any truth at all to the idea that UFOs might be non-human intelligences. He ran a tough, vociferous campaign for many, many years. And it turns out he did, in fact, have very close associations with the intelligence and defense community in the US. That only came out after his death.
And even more fun, he was the person that was in contact with General Samford when they arranged this big press conference on the 29th of July 1952 for the Washington, D.C. flap. And he explained, these are just weather disturbances. The radar operators were incompetent. And so he was in close connection with the US Air Force. And now the interesting thing is that 2 or 3 months later, he becomes director of Harvard. And as a first thing he does when he becomes director of Harvard is that he goes and destroys one third of the plate collection. He asks his secretary to get rid of the plates, and some other plates he just throws into a basement when the astronomers are complaining. So there's a famous American astronomer called Dorrit Hofflight that tells about this entire situation with the photographic plates when Donald Mansell comes in as director. And she became persona non grata because she really didn't get along with Dr. Mansell. And she writes about it in a chapter in her autobiography. So I really recommend everyone who are interested to read that. And even more interesting, he not only destroys one third of the plates, he also destroys some of the logbooks. And for 15 years, from 1953 to 1967, he stops the survey. So the Harvard Astronomical Survey doesn't anymore scour the sky. So you have
So,
15 years, it's called a Menzel gap when it didn't scour the sky.
Beatrice, okay, let's be fair about this. Why would a scientist, a person dedicated to the study of astronomy, why would they want to destroy one third of what I presume was a scientifically priceless collection of images going back many, many years? What's the rationale for that?
I wonder the same. Some people will say he was a theoretical physicist. Maybe it has something to do with storage, but for me, it's a completely insane thing that someone would take all this work, that there's so many hundreds of people that dedicated themselves to do these plays and would just destroy them. There was not even any reason to do it because they were so high quality.
Has
So
Harvard provided any explanation for why Dr. Menzel did what he did?
I haven't heard anything from them. But they themselves on their website talk about the Menzel gap when it comes to stopping the survey, which is two different episodes. It's not the plate destruction, but they refer to the Menzel gap on their webpage when he just stopped the survey.
I mean, let's be honest about it. It's quite sinister. I mean, you have a person who was involved in personally debunking the Washington flyover incidents and trying to explain them away as anomalous weather events, which was manifestly untrue. And he's involved in essentially destroying evidence that might have allowed further corroboration of that incident.
So it's even like some of the things that I'm learning now. I'm writing a new paper. Is that there was a exciting project called Moonwatch that started in '57 at the same time as they were as the first satellite was launched. And so it was Menzel's ex-PhD student, and also I think it was his best friend, if I understand that from Stanton Friedman's works. So Fred Whipple and Mansell were close, and Fred Whipple started this Moonwatch project, which was about searching for kind of all artificial objects. In those times, they were tracking satellites, and they had 12 stations all around the Earth, and a lot of citizen scientists who were helping to track these satellites. And that is also how Hynek apparently came into this entire topic, because if I understand it correctly, he was working with the Moonwatch. So I think Harvard in '50s must have been amazingly interesting, like for astronomers to be
So,
an
do
yeah.
we know what slides were destroyed? Do we know for sure if the 1952 slides that might have been taken by the Harvard Observatory in that period that you're talking about in July 1952, were they destroyed by
I
the
have
order
no
of?
idea. I have no idea. Simply don't know what was destroyed, what wasn't destroyed, and what was the reason behind. I find it very weird, this sum of coincidences that lead up to this destruction, and add to it that Menzel also had his famous reputation in the UFO community. So, I mean, he's a perfect arc villain.
Yeah.
I like
So we really don't know. So we really don't know at the moment. Are there any, let me ask you this way, are there any slides that you know of held by Harvard University's astronomy section which might allow you to look at that area of night sky in that period of July 1957?
I have no idea, but what I would like to do is, of course, to look at this Dash catalog now, since it's up again, this database, and investigate if there is some material that can be helpful.
So it might be that I mean, we just don't know yet because they haven't done the digitization.
I think they are finalizing the digitization now, and there have been a lot of up and downs with the web page. It has been off, and then it has been on, off and on, and now it should be up again. And I'm very happy that they have completed this project, because I think that collection is maybe one of the most most valuable data collections in astronomy.